This is a video response to the one and only Hypnos about why he's vegetarian, not vegan. Now, first of all, I'd just like to say that the video that you were responding to was the product of me being very frustrated and having to deal with a certain person I will not mention, who was completely discounting the reason why vegans are vegan and leading people to, believe a whole lot of myths that vegans are trying very hard to disprove and enlighten people on. Now, it really was only him that I was pissed off with, and his brainless minions. Now, I fully recognise your philosophy, and I have nothing against you personally, or I don't judge you for making those decisions or anything like that. It's early morning. I haven't even had my coffee yet, so if I stumble around a bit, I'm sure you'll forgive me. So the way it works for me is this. Yes, not everyone is going to make the change, but that doesn't mean that I can support, say like organic milk, because I really don't feel that there are any significant welfare differences in it, or any differences in the way that organic milk feeds into the meat industry. The calves are still killed and used for veal. In fact, the organic dairy industry is on a big drive to market rosé veal, because the organic veal is not housed in a cage and kept for several months. But from what I understand, most around the world nowadays, apart from in Europe, like for instance in Australia, I don't believe we have the veal raised in a box. I think we mostly have bobby veal, which is the couple of day old calves that go straight to the slaughterhouse. So the calves still end up as meat. The mother cows still end up as meat when their production slows down. So that's pretty well the same. That's how I see it anyway. I just don't see anything really significant going on there just to make me go, wow, that's great, I'm going to support it. Plus also, just to get a hypothetical sort of analogy, like an analogy going on, to explain why I sort of don't work that way, that I'll support like a minor improvement in something that I overall disagree with. Another range of products that I boycott on ethical grounds is products made by human slaves, right? Vast majority of chocolate is harvested, like the actual cocoa beans, is harvested in Africa by people who are real slaves, people who are captured from their villages and taken away to work in harvesting the cocoa beans. They are beaten into submission as part like the slave breaking process, and it's very hard for them to escape. They are slaves, and so say Cadbury's, right, came out with the thing, saying yes, we acknowledge that slavery is used, but we're going to set a policy that slaves can only be beaten once a week, right, instead of every day, or they won't be beaten, they'll use electric collars to control them, or something bizarre like that. Just a crazy hypothetical for you. Now, my position would not be to say, oh well, this is a major improvement, so I'm going to go out there and support this by buying Cadbury's chocolate so this continues, rather than the worst form of slavery. yeah, it's just not how my mind works that I would make that conclusion. I would continue to boycott it. Now, I just want to say, I'm not perfect, and no one is. There are a certain amount of, animal products that will slip by my radar. It's just the way it is, Just like our society is built on the exploitation of people, the Western world, our society is also built on the exploitation of animals. So I'm not saying that I'm, pure and high and mighty and that I don't contribute, because I know that in some small ways I must do. I just try my very best not to, and that's my personal position. Now, sort of going on the greater sort of philosophical, strategic, sort of level, thinking about how best to reduce animal suffering. Basically, the reason I don't go the welfare route is because I think that if the most vocal people in the animal rights community don't support abolition, which to me is the only way to get rid of the exploitation of animals, then what about the other people? What about the people who are sort of less passionate, who just go get some information and then move on with their lives? If the only message they receive is that of vegetarianism, that's where they're going to stick, because basically that was the case for me. Like, I didn't really consider veganism until a strong argument for veganism was posed to me. And I had gone sort of vegetarian before. I'd been one of those fish-eating vegetarians, so I ate fish a couple of times a week. So I wasn't a vegetarian. I thought I was a vegetarian because that's what everyone else around me was doing, and I thought that was like the highest plane, that I could be on. I really, really thought that. I thought I was doing a really good job, calling myself vegetarian and eating fish. And if I hadn't gotten any other message, that's how I would have stayed, and I would have thought that was perfectly fine. So, it took, for me, to end up, making a big change in my life and taking a stand and becoming active in the movement, it took someone posing a really good argument for veganism to me. So even though, since I made that video, I've taken a different stance, and I'm much more sort of like inclusive, like vegans and vegetarians together, and not making a big song and dance about the difference. I still, I'm never going to advocate milk or eggs. I'm not going to say, you're evil because you consume milk or eggs. The only problem is, the thing that really drove me crazy and made me make that video was that he who will not be named was basically like completely discounting, without providing evidence against my position, was just completely discounting the entire argument and saying that it was false, and saying that basically, veganism was doing nothing and, not contributing to the problem, not contributing to the solution, which I think it does, because there are a lot of people who are vegan because of the welfare implications of milk. Just in the same way that there are people who are vegetarian merely for the, just the welfare implications. Say there was some kind of thing where, in the dairy industry, they use some other technique of making the cows produce milk, and it was enough milk to be commercially viable so they can continue their businesses, but didn't make the cows sick. So there were no calves being killed in the process, and the cows could live their natural life and be healthy and blah blah blah. I think there are a lot of vegans who would consume that product. So really, I think that veganism does sort of challenge the dairy industry to make progress and differences along the lines of what some ethical vegetarians like yourself are demanding. But the problem is, to me, in my perception anyway, a lot of vegetarians don't demand any changes. They don't. They will argue there's nothing wrong with milk or eggs. You're insane, blah blah blah. And that is what really drives me mad, and that is what produced that hysterical video that you're responding to now. So, thank you very much for your response. I look forward to seeing that link that you were talking about, and I'll speak soon. See ya.